The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Hello everyone, producer Pat here, filling in for David on this bonus show today. David is back. He hosted the regular show, but he's still recovering from surgery. We wanted to let him ease into the work week, and so that's what we're doing. I'm hosting the bonus show. He'll be back tomorrow hosting again, and things will sort of go back to normal, but for now you're stuck with me. So let's get into some stories. Jacob Wohl is back in the news, this time for making up a bogus allegation against Elizabeth Warren. You probably know who Jacob Wohl is. He's a Trump troll. He actually was a hedge fund manager in his teenage years, but he had to stop doing that once it was figured out that he made up a bunch of phony credentials about himself, and the SEC banned him from selling futures. So he can no longer do that. He had to find a new job. And what he's been doing is working as a right-wing political operative, basically. He teamed up with Jack Berkman, who does the exact same thing. And what they've been doing is going around the country making up these totally bogus allegations against Trump opponents and, just Democrats in general. And they hold these press conferences. They made up one allegation against Pete Buttigieg. They made up one against Ilhan Omar, Kamala Harris. I think the most notable one was the one they made up against Robert Mueller, where they claimed that a woman was sexually assaulted by Robert Mueller. They held a press conference wherein the woman in question was supposed to give her account of what happened, but then she didn't show up to the press conference, and a bunch of reporters in the room were able to kind of point out the contradictory statements made by Wohl and Berkman. So the whole thing just kind of blew up. But they're still trying. They're still throwing things at the wall to see what will stick. And this time it's an allegation against Elizabeth Warren. So they held a press conference outside of an apartment. And present at the press conference was Jacob Wohl, Jack Berkman, a security guard. I don't know why he was there, but he was there. And a 24-year-old Marine who claims that Elizabeth Warren had hired him for sexual escort services. And actually that Elizabeth Warren had done BDSM acts with him. Now, his proof for all of this was a couple of scars that he had on his back, which were supposedly from Elizabeth Warren whipping him. So the Marine took off his shirt to reveal a couple of scars. It was actually kind of funny watching the thing because the Marine who is making these allegations couldn't even get through the statement he had prepared without chuckling because of the ridiculous nature of this whole thing. And what's great was because there were reporters present at the press conference, they were able to fact check all this stuff in real time. So I think one of the reporters just looked at his phone and looked at the social media posts that this Marine had made over the years and found a picture from a couple years ago showing those exact same scars. And apparently it was from like a swing accident, so it doesn't really add up. You can't say that 2 or 3 years ago these scars are from a swing accident and now they're from Elizabeth Warren whipping you. Of course, that allegation is going to fall apart. So this one was probably the most entertaining one to date to watch. I highly recommend you check it out. And the real question that I have is, how is this guy not in jail yet? I mean, he's making up bogus allegation after bogus allegation after bogus allegation. There has to be some accountability at some point. There is a warrant out for him over the illicit sale of securities, but nothing over these false reports. Of course, this does sound like defamation to me. It does sound like slander to me. But maybe it's just that these allegations are so ridiculous and no one's believing them that's why they're not going to press charges against Jacob Wohl. Like maybe if it was a little bit more tame and the public actually bought into it, they would want to take up legal action against them. But everyone just views this as a total charade, a total hoax, and so no one's actually taking Jacob Wohl seriously. It's kind of sad in a sense. It's kind of sad. But we'll see what ends up happening and if he ever has to go to jail over the stuff that he's done. So MGM has agreed to pay $800 million in liability claims stemming from the 2017 Las Vegas mass shooting. MGM is, of course, the owner of the Mandalay Bay Hotel and Casino, and that was the site of the worst shooting in American history. It's where Stephen Paddock took out a room and broke a couple windows and fired down at a crowd of concert goers who were attending a country music festival, killing about 60 people, I think it was. And in the days after the shooting, there was a real question over whether or not the hotel should be held liable because Paddock was able to get away with leaving a Do Not Disturb sign out in front of his door for the entirety of his stay. He even had bellhops bring up weapons and ammunition up to his room over and over and over again, just suitcase after suitcase. I was actually in Las Vegas about 6 weeks ago, and I noticed that the Do Not Disturb sign actually didn't say Do Not Disturb sign. It didn't say Do Not Disturb. It said room occupied, and it said that someone would still be there to check up on the room day to day. So it looks like they have made some changes since the shooting to try to prevent a future one from happening, but it does also look like they're going to have to face some sort of liability for what took place. They have to pay $800 million. And I think this is probably the right decision. Certainly, MGM can afford to pay it, but it's questionable in a sense because after one of these major mass shootings take place, you want to be able to place blame on also people if they were negligent and maybe could have picked up on what happened. You want to make sure that there's some accountability there. But I don't know. At the same time, I feel as though because we have this like gun fetishization culture, people are so unwilling to blame the guns themselves and even the gun manufacturers that they're so incredibly willing to go after like venues. They're willing to go after like hotels and schools and pretend as if that's the stuff that's to blame here, when we know that what we should be focusing the blame on is the actual perpetrator and secondarily the methods by which they were able to commit their crime. And so I think you have to always bring up guns. We can't lose sight of that stuff, but still it's a very interesting decision that was made. $800 million, that's a lot of money, but knowing what MGM owns in Las Vegas, I'm sure it's just peanuts for them. So Corey Lewandowski went on Fox News the other day, and he was visibly drunk on camera. Of course, Corey Lewandowski is Trump's former campaign manager, and he's weighing running for Senate in New Hampshire. I hope that doesn't happen. But anyway, he went on Fox Business on a show hosted by Kennedy, and he was visibly drunk, slurring his words, just not making all that much sense, and the host of the show even called him out on that. So let's take a look at the clip, and then we'll come back.
The whistleblower is a former CIA agent who was detailed to the NSC, who's probably back at the CIA, who hates this president more than they love their country. And the fact is, they never had any firsthand account of what transpired.
Corey?
Yes?
Did you have a little Merlot with dinner?
No, should I have?
You sound a little slurry. You sound a little Biden-esque.
No, look. What I'm mad about, Kennedy, is that they're still blaming the president for this conversation with the Ukraine President Zelensky. And what this is really about is people who don't love this country as much as they hate the president.
I love this country. I love this country so much that I would like to hug it till it squeaks.
Yeah, but Kennedy,
Oh, no. Yes,
there's no president in the history of our country before this one who's had so many leaks. And that should be a real concern for our national security apparatus.
Yep. Thank you, Corey. Great to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so props to Kennedy for calling him out there. I honestly wonder, like, if from her perspective, if that was the right thing to do, because she's trying to appeal to her boss and, her audience. And I wonder if maybe she could have just let Corey Lewandowski skate by the entire segment without actually calling him out for being drunk. So that I thought that was kind of funny. She kind of reminded me of like a mother who was scolding one of her kids for drinking or smoking pot or whatever. Just couldn't let it go. Just had to bring it up. So I thought this was very interesting. And apparently it goes to show that you can do Trump defense talking points drunk. Like, I mean, I don't know if Corey Lewandowski would have done a better job if he was sober at doing what he did there. All he had to do was go out and say that liberals hate the president more than they love the country and just repeat that talking point over and over and over again. It's pretty tough to do, apparently. And if you notice, like, this stuff keeps happening. Like, Trump operatives keep going on camera drunk. And I wonder why that is. Like, Sam Nunberg a couple years back went on Erin Brunette's show, and she called him out for, smelling like alcohol. There's been allegations against Larry Kudlow and Rudy Giuliani for doing the exact same thing before their television appearances. And so I wonder what it is. Like, maybe everyone's just stressed out. Maybe it's tough working in the Trump administration or just being in Trump's inner circle because you know that at any point you could have to go to prison. And, maybe they have to just drink to kind of calm those nerves, especially before they go out on TV and do something that could potentially show that they're criminals. And I also wonder why TV networks keep trotting out Corey Lewandowski, especially when he's admitted to lying to the media before. Like in the congressional testimony that he had a couple of weeks ago, he said that things that he says on camera shouldn't necessarily be taken seriously, shouldn't necessarily be taken as truthful or credible because he's willing to lie to the media, that the fake news media lies to the people all the time, so it's just right that he lies right back at them. So I don't know why CNN and Fox News keep having him on, but they decide to keep having him on, and apparently he can't get through a segment now without drinking first. So we'll see if they continue to bring him back after this latest incident. Thanks everyone for watching the bonus show today. I know from an audio video perspective, it may not have been the best. We're trying to sort things out when I am on my own recording stuff. Hopefully by the next time I do one of these, things will look and sound better. But David should be back joining me tomorrow, and we'll be right back in the swing of things. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.